So I did already do a Fabrics update at the DAOS user group at SC25. So this one will be a really short status update, lots of bullet points, and I'll share the slides. There's not too much news relative to SC, but I thought since the audience is a little different, it still makes sense to go through some of the changes that has happened over the last couple of months. Let me start with a trivial but important packaging change. We are using Mercury as our point-to-point RPC library, and I've linked the documentation here, and also we've talked about that in various other forums. The Argonne team and our engineers have done some presentations at the Cray user group, so there's a lot of information already about Mercury and how it fits in. We've originally always shipped the libfabric plugins for Mercury as part of the base Mercury RPM. And then at some point, we added UCX for the InfiniBand systems as an alternative to libfabric. And in some of those environments, it was really not convenient to always have the libfabric stuff, which carries a dependency to install libfabric. That Mercury backend plugin was implemented as a loadable plugin in a separate RPM. And with the Mercury 2.4.1 release, now both libfabric and UCX are in separate packages. So if you want to essentially continue to get the same functionality you got from Mercury base in the past, you now have to install Mercury and Mercury libfabric. And on the UCX side, there's no change. You can install both plugins if you want, right? But you have to have at least one. If you don't, you're getting runtime errors when the plugin is searched and it's not found. I quoted one of those errors on the bottom here. So that's just something to watch out for as you're updating Mercury to pull in this new Mercury libfabric. So on the HPE side, of course, we have a lot of focus on Slingshot with the OFI plus the CXI provider. And here's the reference to the Cray user group presentation from last year. And of course, Aurora still is definitely the largest system, has been #1 for a while. And in the past couple of months, we had the opportunity to also run on Slingshot 400 in our manufacturing for one of the first bring-up systems here. We've reported that system, which was a really small one, 8 one-socket systems, which corresponds functionally to 4 of our K400, K4 3000 servers. We put that on the list just as a data point. You can look at the presentations from November if you're interested. In terms of software releases, on that machine, we have done pretty much all of our validation with the Slingshot host stack 13.1, which uses libfabric 2.2. It supports /15 SP7 and EL9 until 9.6. And that level also did include a lot of the VNI improvements that the Slingshot team has worked on to enable DAOS, essentially. And I believe in the Argonne context, there was a lot of conversation about that functionality as well. In March, the Slingshot team released 14.0, which will be required if we're going to EL9.7, which also bumps the libfabric version. We've just started the validation of that as part of our validation cycle with the 2.8 release candidate, essentially, or pre-release candidate. One thing to note for people who haven't been running on Slingshot yet, the Cray Slingshot host stack is installed in not a system library directory, so you have to set the library path in order for the Mercury plugin to actually find the libfabric. So that's the Slingshot story. On the InfiniBand side, we've also talked about that in various contexts, and this has been a longer exercise determining what's the best provider on InfiniBand. The challenge there is that InfiniBand uses Q pairs as adapter resources. There's a limit on that, and since we're user space and everybody essentially connects to everybody from a client and server target perspective, that's a scalability concern. We have settled on UCX plus DCX with this dynamically connected transport layer sometime last year, and the table at the bottom here shows that we, on the LRZ system, which is 42 servers, in the past, we could only run up until less than 100 clients and not all cores on those clients. With the change from libfabric to UCX, we could essentially triple the number of client-side processes for the benchmark and get 38% total IO500 scores just by like running more client processes. So that's definitely been a good change. And for that machine, at least, I mean, UCX and DCX has been performing fine. We haven't seen any resource issues because we're essentially sharing a much smaller number of Q pairs rather than maxing out the adapters. The goal for the HPE product, which is called K3000, is definitely when we will support all the InfiniBand levels up until NDR, right? That has already been validated. We started working with an all NVIDIA Ethernet environment as well with Connect 7 adapters and the Spectrum SN5000 switches. And the goal is to also have that supported with Roki in the product launch for the K3000. After that is done, of course, since HPE acquired Juniper, we have a joint collaboration with the Juniper team to validate their QFX 5000 series switches with the NVIDIA adapters lined up. This is simply a matter of test resources and people resources. So after the K3000 has released, we'll validate that switch and add that to the portfolio. What we do on the adapter side is not determined yet. We know that some of the like non-NVIDIA adapters had some trouble with like Roki, so that may be a bigger exercise, and we haven't decided on that. One thing that is also recent development on the Omnipath side, it is still true that the native providers, PSM2, and also this newer Omnipath Express OPX provider cannot really be used with DAOS. They are fine for MPI, but they have some gaps that have prevented us from using them with DAOS environments. If you're interested in that, then certainly let's have that conversation. We do have regular sync calls with the Cornelis team to see if and when those gaps could be closed. But even without that, on the Omnipath 100 side, it has been acceptable performance to run just with the TCP provider over Omnipath. Certainly, if you want to do that, as with all high-speed fabrics, right, 1,500 byte MTUs on an Ethernet network isn't good, and neither is the 2 kilobyte default MTU that you get on Omnipath, like the default IP MTU. That can be changed, and that dramatically improves the IP performance. And this is how we've run the LISA supercomputer at the Zuse Institute here in Germany pretty successfully. The drawback of that, of course, is if you have an MPI-heavy application, you probably don't want to run with OFI TCP on the MPI layer, right? So this is really just a workaround for stuff that isn't MPI-heavy, but has a lot of I/O. On the Omnipath 400 side, Cornelis has actually implemented verbs in the CN5000 environment. We have started running with OFI plus verbs. This is not something that we are officially supporting right now, but we have started validation together with Cornelis, and they have an acceleration layer called bulk transfer services. And with that, we are getting reasonably close to line rate on the 400 gigabit switches. It looks pretty good, but we haven't finished all the functional testing yet. So it's a bit premature, but certainly we're on a good path there. And this is also like more suitable to like MPI heavy traffic than the TCP provider, which should still work, but we won't get more than like 12, 13, 14 gigabytes per second. We can't really saturate 400 gig. I will have a more detailed presentation on that at ISC next, 2 weeks from now, essentially, if you are interested. All right, that's it from me regarding the fabrics. And as I said, most of the performance stuff is already in the SC25 presentation that we did at that time. Questions?
Michael, for the Mercury 241, is that part of 2.8 or does that show up in 2.6?
I believe it's in both. So, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure if Jerome is here. I can double check that. I think it is also in 2.6 because it includes some of the fixes that you guys are also waiting for.
Yeah, it shows also in 2.6, but in 2.6 we made it like a direct dependency, so to keep the same.
It gets pulled in. Okay. Okay, good. Yeah, that would be my question. We discussed having like an either this or that, or like non-exclusive or of the two, but it's good if it's in 2.6. It's a direct dependency, so you don't have to worry. It will be pulled in, but it's still a change in the packaging that you have to watch out for if you have any other controls around that. Yeah.
Great.